And we are live. Thank you for tuning in for the Pimpy and Rice Show, live edition of the Rice Report, a collaboration between Rice TVX, Pimpy's Investment Chat, and Hidden Things in Front of Your Eyes. Today, we are joined once again by the CEO of Money Metals Exchange, Stephan Gleason, and we are going to get the show started for you here in just moments. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to both of our channels and follow us on LBRY and Odyssey, where we both have backups of our videos. I post up extra content. We are streaming this live on my YouTube channel, Rice TVX, on my Twitter, and also on Float. If you're not familiar with Float, check out flote.app. Float.app is a social media platform that promotes freedom of speech, and I definitely encourage you to check that out. I encourage people to check out my Patreon channel. Links are down below. Post up exclusive content. You get early access to videos, and it's a way to support the channel as well. And if you are looking to buy precious metals, if you're thinking about getting some gold and silver to hedge against the US dollar, hyperinflation, all the good, bad stuff coming, which we'll talk about in today's episode, be sure to consider our friends at Money Metals Exchange. And the way that you can support our channels is you go to Money Metals Exchange, you'll be a first-time buyer, moneymetals.com. You purchase $100 or more, use the promo codes either RICE or Pimpy, and you get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support both of our channels. It would be greatly appreciated. Links are down below. So today we are joined once again by our good friend, Stephan Gleason from Money Metals Exchange. Pimpy, I want to go ahead and let you say hello. I know we're limited with time with Stephan, and Stephan has some really important things to talk about today. So let you kind of say hello, and then we'll hand it over to Stephan.
There's like a weird feedback, just so you're aware. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but there's like a weird noise in the background.
Yeah, I hear that. Hold on. Yeah, it's.
I'll say hi to everybody. Rice, sir, how you doing? Of course, Stephan, sir, how you doing?
Stephan, can you turn it down just a little bit more? I apologize.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. After I muted you for a second, it went away. Yeah, that's a lot better. Sorry about that. Pimpy, you mind kind of just saying hi to everybody, and then we'll just pass it over to Stephan since he's limited on time today?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just saying, Rice, sir, how you doing? As well as Stephan, sir, how you doing?
Great.
Good seeing you.
Thanks for having me on again.
Well, it's exciting times, I would say, right about now. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's a lot of craziness going on right now between the power outage with the Federal Reserve and now magically the platforms, Robinhood, TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, all of them had some kind of magical power outage too. Not sure what's going on, but it's very interesting. We're seeing cryptocurrencies go down, and we're seeing also silver just got smashed right now. I mean, it was up there near 28, and now it's got down to about 27.30, and it's starting to rebound really quick. I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to keep it down, but I was wondering about your opinion on everything that we're seeing.
Well, yeah, there's been some volatility in silver and gold. I mean, but keep in mind what's happening in silver. If you look at the silver chart over the last few months, it's been sideways to up. It's a very bullish chart. In fact, even the last 30 days, notwithstanding today's correction, it looks strong. Gold has been in more of a steady downtrend, which is not great for gold, but it's remarkable in that silver usually does worse during a gold correction, and it's doing better, and it looks like a very different chart.
Here's my question to you, because I just saw right now that more people are taking physical possession off the COMEX of gold. So that's weird that they're taking the physical possession off the market, but gold prices are going down. Is there any correlation?
Yeah.
Or why would that happen?
Well, I honestly don't know the answer to that. I mean, there's a lot of anecdotes when you look at delivery and stuff like that. Gold is a much larger market There's a lot more gold available to take off the COMEX. So I think that would be maybe the answer. The demand fundamentals for silver right now just look so much better. You have all the economic and inflationary stuff, but you have the Fed and all the things that are happening, the money printing, but then at the same time you have this green energy boom thing, and silver's part of that. You have electronics and well, I'm sorry,
the electric cars,
EVs. Yep, exactly. So
copper.
And that's helping copper. So you've got both the monetary and inflationary sort of thing happening in favor of silver, and then you have the economic backdrop of reflation of the economy, and then you have this green energy EV. So I mean, you've got all these things coming together, and then you add things like the silver squeeze. Oh, and by the way, I should mention, that we have a promo code for existing customers of yours, people that are not new, therefore can't get that free half ounce. But if you put in the word squeeze into the promo code, we'll take $10 off on a 500 plus silver order. So that's for the repeat customers. That's something they can still benefit from. But cool. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be discouraged by the ups and downs of silver. I mean, honestly, it's just, it was up big yesterday and it's down today. I mean, it's going sideways to up. If it breaks through 30.50, it probably goes to 35 pretty quickly, and probably goes, if it breaks through 35, it could go up well over 40. So I mean, silver looks really strong. I wouldn't be too concerned about the, a $1 move down on a day, when it's still at $27.
Me, I become obsessed with watching Kiko's live chart. I mean, he's got the live, the pricing on there. It's I don't know why. I just cannot take my eyes off. I keep watching what they're doing. And I'll watch that sucker sometimes for, I hate to admit this, damn near an hour. I'll just watch it. And it's like, what am I watching? Just watching going up and down. But I'm curious to see the patterns, what's going on, and try to guess what they're thinking. But anytime it gets near, over the last few days, anytime it got anywhere near $28, all of a sudden, like in the middle of the night, you just see it get pushed back down. And I can't help but think this has got to be those algorithm things. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but there seems to be continually intense physical demand. We're seeing it. It's been continuous for the last month. Obviously, it was really big in early February, the last time we talked, but it's continued. It's been very strong. And I think people maybe, and partly because of your and many people like you are talking about, hey, don't buy the paper, buy the physical.
Yes.
And that includes, 1,000-ounce bars. It doesn't mean buy SLV. Some people say, and are focusing on PSLV, the Sprott thing, because that's a more credible physical, stock-like way of investing. But the big thing is that we're seeing continually intense demand at the retail level for the coins, bars, and rounds, and it's just relentless every day. And I think it's going to have the impact that people want to see it have over the next few weeks.
Well, here's my thing about trusting them. They changed. There's that weird noise again. Sorry about that. Hopefully it's not coming through on the video. Here's my thing about that. They changed their perspectives in the middle of the night and didn't tell anybody. Before, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Stephan, you know about this. According to how that works is you buy the stocks into this, and they're supposed to match however many stock they got with how much silver they have. Does that sound about right? I always thought that they automatically matched it just in case everybody, pulled in their chips, so to speak. And they're supposed to have the silver that covers the shares that they sold. But all of a sudden, like, your Chris Marcus had his roundtable. And again, I got to give a shout out to Chris Marcus, man. His roundtables over the last few weeks have been phenomenal. I love listening to him. He's a good man. So, listening to them and what they're saying. And they're like, look at this perspective. They changed it overnight. They didn't even tell nobody. Yeah. And it said, so before they used to match it, I guess for every share you had X amount of silver or however way it worked out. Yeah. Then they all of a sudden changed it to perspective saying, well, we might not have the silver. Yeah, that's what I mean. They don't change the game. They change the rules on how we play. Yeah,
well, I mean,
screwed over the little guy all the time.
Honestly, what they're doing there literally is just saying, hey, and they have this obligation under the SEC to the extent they follow it. They probably realize, hey, we need to let people know we're having trouble getting silver. We may not be able to match one for one. There's tremendous delays and problems, in getting the physical silver right now, and they had to disclose that risk. So they're sort of admitting that, hey, this is not necessarily going to have the backing that you think it is. And I I do think that they've had to scoop up a tremendous number of 1,000-ounce bars, mostly in Europe. I know that the supply has tightened there, but that the fact that they can go and change the rules or say, hey, this is no longer a credible one-to-one instrument, that should tell you something. Do you want to be owning a share of a trust that's going to try to get the silver, or do you want to directly own the silver? And
see, that's where I pitch all the time to my subscribers. That is this. Get away from the paper, man. Trust me when I tell you this. That is the example that I now use. Before, it's supposed to be, hey, whatever you got in paper, we have in silver. That changed. There's all kinds of indicators out there right now. The fact that the 1,000-ounce silver bar in the wholesale level got affected. Retail sellers are struggling to get supply. Keep in mind that it takes, what they say, $200 or not $200, 200 days just to try to, what commodities usually taking 10 days to replenish, takes 200 days in silver. So we're seeing squeezes overseas, squeezes here, retailers having problems getting, any kind of supplies whatsoever. And then you're seeing them change the rules. You're seeing them change their perspectives. So when people go, well, according to this news article, the squeeze is over. I'm like, no, stop listening to them. Buy. That's what I keep telling people. Not paper, physical. It's happening.
It's not happening overnight, and it's not going to happen overnight, as we said, talked about the last time. But it is happening. There's tremendous demand. People are taking it off the market. We're seeing a lot of tightness across the board, including 1,000-ounce bars. But it's not it's not a situation where you can't get silver yet. But some dealers are struggling a little more than we are. We seem to be pretty well stocked, but it's a day-to-day situation to make sure we have enough inventory. And
well, that's one of the things I used to brag about you guys. I go, look, you got to understand that these are one of the biggest ones out there, and they have the most. This person said, you wouldn't dare do a price comparison video. I was like, what are you talking about? I know they're one of the most competitive companies. I'm not afraid. Was there somebody a little bit cheaper? Yeah, but for the most part, Money Metals is constantly down there as far as most competitive prices, period. But for me, it's more than that. It's family-owned business here in America. They have the inventory. I mean, these are the types of things that I like and I look for. So, whatever people do, that's up to them. But I keep encouraging people right now, so you might get a flood again. I talked to at least 5 people wanting to transfer over 25-30% of the IRAs and 401ks. So they need to, in my opinion. But I understand there's some legislation coming out. Is that right?
Yeah, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of the things we're doing on the policy front. So Money Metals is I would say the leader. Oh, sorry.
Real quick, I just want to let everybody know that everything that we're talking about, these 2 articles that we're going to be sharing, this one and the next one, are linked down below. So if people want to be able to read this on their own, I just want to let them know that it's available.
No, Chris, can you do me a favor? Just real quick, before Stephan gets going, show people that on Money Metals website, it's just not about just precious metals or transferring IRAs or whatever. Can you just show them where they could go to the drop-down box? And they got on there, they have articles that they release. They have a podcast that's on there. They have
their news and resources section.
Yeah. So you guys, right now, it's not just a place to buy precious metals. They obviously have a tab there where you can go and get educated on everything else that is dealing with precious metals, and I love that.
Right. And you can buy and sell with cryptocurrencies. But Stephan,
I'll be doing today. I'm getting rid of my accounts. I don't like what I see right now. It's scaring the bejeebus out of me.
Yeah. Well, you can switch it into gold and silver on our website if you want. That's
exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So the Sound Money Index that you guys came up with, can you want to talk about this?
So we're heavily involved in the policy side of Sound Money because it's part of why we're in the precious metals business. Actually, it's what brought us to the precious metals business, which is sound money and money that cannot be devalued by government intervention. It's free market money, commodity money. It's the oldest money in history, and it is the only money that doesn't have, at the same time, is not somebody else's liability. The Federal Reserve note, any fiat currency is something that involves counterparty risk. It's unbacked. You're taking on the liabilities and the trust in the way that a government runs its business, and we know that they're very bad at that.
Oh, geez, Stephan, you want to tell everybody just exactly how great are governments at managing your money? I'm sorry.
I don't have to get it. Your listeners know, but the bottom line is one of the things that we do as part of this project, we call this called the Sound Money Defense League, and we're actively involved across the country at the state and federal level in promoting sound money policies. And part of that was just taking an inventory of what different states are doing on all of the issues that we think are important that a state can or can do or is not doing that relates to sound money. And then we ranked all of those states based on how pro-sound money their policies are. And as you can see, there's a few states up in the 50, 60 percentile. Wyoming, Texas, Utah.
Yeah.
The worst states, I think you're looking at Vermont, Arkansas, New Jersey, Maine. They're at the bottom. But they're basically, we have 12, and the District of Columbia is pretty bad too. We didn't put it on the index. It's not a state. I don't want to necessarily want to imply anything that, I know it wants to be a state. But we basically look at 12 policies, 12 areas of a state, what a state can and can't do. And about 60% of what is ranked has to do with taxation. And we look at the fact that a state, whether a state taxes the purchase or the sale of precious metals to be probably the most fundamental impediments to remonetizing gold and silver, because that's friction around the use of gold and silver as money. If you have to pay tax when you buy it using Federal Reserve notes, when you swap Federal Reserve notes for gold and your state wants 7%, that's a problem. If you then sell it and you have a capital gain or loss because the Federal Reserve note has been devalued and now they want taxes on this supposed gain that isn't even a real gain, then that also impairs gold and silver's use and function as money. And so about 60% of the index looks at whether the state has sales tax on gold, silver, platinum, and palladium, how high that tax is, and then whether they have income tax on gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. And right now, there are 39 states, fortunately, and this has been a number that's been increasing, and thanks in part to our efforts where we have an employee full-time and activists around the country supporting this effort. 39 states have exempted gold and silver either in whole or in part from sales taxes.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think it's about 30 that are 100% exempted and 9 that have partial exemptions.
Now, what about capital gains?
Capital gains, of course, there's some states that have no income tax at all. So those are exempted, but not specifically because of their interest in exempting gold. But the state of Arizona has exempted gold and silver gains from income. And it just removes it completely from the state income tax. We had a bill in Idaho. It only passed one of the chambers, so that wasn't made law. But we had a bill in Wyoming, and that's being reintroduced. Oh, I'm sorry. In Wyoming, we passed that. No taxes of any kind on precious metals in Wyoming, including income tax, including sales tax. Currently, on the income tax front, we have a bill right now in Alabama, Iowa, South Carolina, and Kansas that would remove gold and silver from the income tax at the state level. Nice. We have a bill in Mississippi, Hawaii, Tennessee, Alabama, and Arkansas and Maine that would end the sales tax. And actually in Alabama, they already don't have a sales tax, but it's going to sunset. So we're trying to get that restored. So we have several states where we are currently moving new bills to remove sales tax and remove income tax.
Mike, I got a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Given that most of the so-called elites usually move into precious metals when it comes to crunch time, if there's something going to happen in the market, you would think, since the bankers and politicians and media and Wall Street are all bed buddies, that these laws would be a little easier to pass, considering most of them are about to move into precious metals. Am I wrong in that assumption, or is that possible?
I think it's possible because, well, part of it is, we have a bill in Hawaii that looks promising, and you wouldn't expect Hawaii to be a low tax. It's not a low tax environment, but we have a chance of passing a sales tax exemption in Hawaii. I think part of it is just that the whole idea of taxing precious metals is kind of ridiculous. It's an exchange of one money for another. It's an investment. What other investments have a sales tax? So It's a way that people save. So it's disproportionately hurting small guys, who are making small purchases, who may not even have a bank account, who may not have a 401k, and they're buying gold and silver, and then the state wants 7% of every transaction. I think and the whole idea, by the way, of, not to get too policy wonkish, but the idea of sales tax is that it's on the final consumption of a good. You're not consuming gold. You're holding it for resale. It's inherently being held for resale or exchange, like an investment asset or money. So the whole idea of a sales tax on consumption, because sales taxes are consumption taxes. The final user who consumes something is the one who pays the sales tax. And I'm not trying to say it's a legitimate tax. And obviously many states realize that there's many states that have no sales tax. But at least the concept is on consumption. Well, you're not consuming gold and silver. I mean, unless it's colloidal silver or something, I guess, and you're drinking it. But so the whole notion of sales tax on precious metals is kind of invalid. It is invalid. And I think we've had success in getting states to understand that. And so these exemptions have been increasing. At the same time, though, we've had defensive battles. We did lose the exemption in Ohio a couple years ago. And that's a long story won't get into, but we also have some defensive battles right now. There's some tax and spend politicians in Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Minnesota that are currently trying to repeal their sales tax exemptions on precious metals. So we're involved in trying to defend those existing laws from repeal. So the sound money index is, primarily I said 60% deals with federal and sales and income tax. But there are other policies, and we score them based on what they have. And by the way, there's details if you want to look at your state. If you go to the chart above, you can actually click to expand that. Let's just click on any state.
Let's click on some good old North Carolina. It just happens to be dead smack in the middle.
Okay. So there you go. So North Carolina currently gets 16 points because it has no sales tax on gold and silver of any kind. It has no sales tax on platinum and palladium. And the sales tax rate is lower than the national average. So we gave it 2 points for that. And every state, and you could even go further, we can go through this, but ultimately—
California, what is going on here?
Yeah, take a look at California.
Where is California?
It's about halfway down the list, I think.
Here we go, 39.
39, okay. So California only gets 8 out of 16 points because they tax gold and silver purchases of under $1,500. So basically, they've just decided if you're making big purchases, then that's an investment. If it's not, you're consuming it. We're going to screw you with a tax.
In other words, if you're poor, screw you. If you're rich, you're good.
Right, and they're nasty sales tax bureaucrats in that state too. They're very aggressive.
We call it Commie California for a reason.
So of course they have a high state sales tax. They have a high state income tax. They have no exemption on gold and silver capital gains, so there's no points there. They don't recognize gold and silver as money. They don't affirm the validity of gold clause contracts. They don't have a bullion depository. They don't hold any gold and silver in state reserve funds. They don't have any gold or silver in their pension funds. And that's another thing. The last one's kind of interesting. Precious metals dealer and investor harassment laws. So there are some states that really put individual investors and dealers through the ringer with regulation. The worst one is Arizona, which is kind of interesting because it's not bad on some other stuff. But Arizona actually makes it illegal to use cash to purchase gold and silver. In other words,
I never even heard that. That's the craziest thing ever.
It's an outright ban on cash. It's literally cash is illegal to use to buy gold and silver. You have to make an electronic transaction.
Here's my question to you, Stephan, because if I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm wrong, but doesn't the Constitution only recognize gold and silver as money?
Right.
So whenever these people go, we don't recognize gold and silver as money, well, it doesn't make a difference what you think the Constitution recognizes. Am I wrong in that area?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Article 1. Section 10 of the standards there. He just, that's better.
Yeah, I was having.
Don't put the communists on me. Don't put the socialists on me. Come on now.
He was sitting right on Pimpy's face.
So Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution says that a state shall not make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt. It actually is a prohibition on states paying debts in anything but gold and silver coin. And obviously that's not being followed. That's a long conversation, but it is the money of the states. It's literally the states are supposed to only use gold and silver coin for payments. There have been cases trying to reinforce that concept. When the gold was backed, when the Federal Reserve note was backed, you could say, well, it is paying in gold and silver. But since the early 70s, every state's been violating the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 10.
Real quick, I want to notate when it really surprised me about Wyoming, because Wyoming just seems to be this, it's a very crypto-friendly state. Right. So for it also to have the same kind of values with precious metals, I think is awesome. It gives me a little bit more faith in some of these states as far as some of their legislation. I just want to highlight that because being that they're so, I guess, aggressive with the legislation and trying to buck the system, it seems, on a federal level. Yeah, Wyoming has been the leader on the crypto legislation, and we have some similar allies in the legislature on the sound money issue, and including, I think, the majority leader in the House, the Wyoming House, is a big crypto supporter, and he's been a supporter of gold and silver as well. So they're currently doing a new bill in Wyoming, which we're assisting, which would have the state hold gold and silver as a reserve asset, and because currently the state does have the authority to hold gold and silver, but it currently is not. Did you hear about Miami by chance? What they were talking about doing? Yeah,
on crypto.
Yeah, with Bitcoin and on the assets.
Yeah. So it's kind of that kind of forward thinking, states and in that case a mayor that obviously this is something people are moving in our direction on this kind of thing, but unfortunately a lot of the laws on the books are hostile. And of course the financial industry, when it comes to holding gold and silver, the banking system and the financial advisors have been very hostile to holding gold and silver as an asset. They even try to say that it's imprudent, that it's an alternative asset. You can only have 1% at most. It's risky, it's volatile. But I think a lot of the reason that the financial industry has not come around to supporting gold and silver for, an allocation for anyone, including a state, is because they haven't really figured out how to get paid. Gold and silver, a physical gold and silver 1,000-ounce bar or 400-ounce bar, there's no big commissions on that, and certainly not the kind that Wall Street is used to. So there's sort of an institutional bias against, and of course the banks are against it too. But
doesn't it restrict the powers of the government as well as growth?
It would, in the context of the Federal Reserve System, if they had to have every Federal Reserve note backed by gold again, then that would mean that they couldn't print to infinity, and it would reduce that. And actually, you guys talked about this before, but if you look at the rise of debt in the U.S., the U.S. federal debt, it's like a hockey stick from the point where gold was removed completely from the internet for the Bretton Woods, when we defaulted on the Bretton Woods and gold couldn't be redeemed anymore, even internationally. The Federal Reserve note couldn't be redeemed. Debt just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So gold is absolutely a limiter on government growth and debt, and that's why they don't like it.
Which is why we don't see any countries, nations, or anybody talking really hardcore about really going to a precious metals backed currency, because
China and Russia.
The restriction, it restricts everything that the whole banking system is about. And so far, it seems like no matter what's going on, everything is being done to support and prop up that very said system. So it's this conundrum that we're in. It's like the Jenga game, and it's about to topple over. We're just not sure which piece is going to be the one that makes it all just crash. But we're right on the cusp.
Yeah, and I think at some point it will be in their interest to reintroduce gold, but it would be at a much higher price, and it would be after everybody who owns debt has been completely defaulted upon, and then you reset the system and say gold's worth $30,000 an ounce, and try to bring confidence back. Some country might do it at some point, and whichever one does, it'll probably be a big winner. When it happens.
Well, I could have sworn I just seen a report that there's at least 11 states right now moving into doing something about supporting their debt with.
Realize you're not going to own anything, and you're going to be happy about it.
No, that's a great reset. I hate that thing. I warned people months ago before even started talking about it.
You're going to be happy. You're going to be skipping along down the street, smelling flowers. You're going to be happy.
So, Stephan, on any of these legislations, if there's anything we could do, please let us know. We'll make sure to help get word out. If you need some type of action, please let us know so we can get word out.
Yeah, okay. So, first thing is people who want to be alerted about legislation that may impact them in their state, they should get onto our email list because we send out alerts and we generally will have information on which state you're in. So we can tell you, like we sent out about 5 or 6 alerts today in several states regarding the sales tax bills that we're involved with, that the income tax repeal that we're involved with, and several other projects. So first thing would be get on our email list. So you can do that by going to the bottom of our website. There's a form at the bottom. There's also sometimes you'll see a pop-up, but you can literally just go right there.
I saw this one too to get the free updates kind of in the middle of the page. So it's placed at the middle and bottom, so people should be able to find it either way.
Yeah. And then if you go search for Sound Money on our site, you'll see the articles we've written, including one that just recently had a big roundup of all of the state legislation that we have going on. And of course we send that out to our email list, and people are kept abreast of Sound Money issues by being on our email list. Scroll down, probably see it under articles. Let's see. There,
I'm all the way at the bottom. I'm just going to show people this on one of the videos so they know.
I got both of these particular articles. The first one, Sound Money Index, and the one in regards to state legislator Sound Money reforms. They're both linked in the video description. I'll make sure that Pimpy has it for his video description too.
Yeah, and then I want to mention federal. I mean, there's more to talk about on the state level, but it's the most of the subject matter that we already went over. We touched on at least what states can do. They can repeal income taxes on precious metals. They can repeal sales tax on precious metals. They can hold gold and silver as a reserve asset. They can hold gold and silver in the pension funds, which are otherwise probably going insolvent. They can have a state charter depository, or at least have a pro-depository environment for people to store precious metals. They can issue a gold bond or invest in gold bonds, which is kind of an old idea that's coming back. They can stop harassing dealers and investors with their anti-privacy, anti-cash restrictions, like the ones I mentioned for Arizona, which is just outrageous, and there's a lot more to it than that. And so we catalog all that. We monitor all the bills that are impacting precious metals that are good and bad, and we work and identify allies in the state legislatures that will put forward bills that we think should be passed. And then we support those. And then we ask our people on our list to support. We also coordinate with other groups, which sometimes will involve other precious metals dealers in a battle, especially when we're dealing with repeals of sales tax exemptions, for example. And then at the federal level, we have 2 bills that we're working with Congressman Mooney on from West Virginia. And one of them will be introduced next week, and it's a bill that would, and this is of course very difficult in this environment with even, it was hard with the Republicans, but now it'll be more difficult with the Democrats probably. But the bill's called the Monetary Metals Tax Neutrality Act, and it would remove gold and silver from the income tax federally. So instead, and right now, and this is a problem, that gold and silver are assessed a discriminatorily high capital gains tax rate as though they are collectibles, They're taxed at 28% instead of 15 or 20, like say a stock or a piece of real estate. So right now, and that's the IRS did that unilaterally. There's not even from the statute. It's an IRS decree that these are collectibles and that they're taxed at the higher discriminatory rate. So this bill would actually completely remove gold and silver from all income tax. It would be a non-entity. And then the other bill is the Audit the Gold bill. And you guys, I'm sure, know that the U.S. gold reserves, to the extent we have them, have not been subject to any audit, any credible audit since 1954. So almost 70 years ago. So this bill would not only require an actual audit or an inventory of all the gold, but an assay of all the gold. Does it have tungsten in the middle of the bars, or is it not pure, and things like that. It would have an overview of the security behind the gold, but more fundamentally, and this is actually one area where prior bills years ago that tried to do this stopped. They stopped with that, if that. But the big issue is, well, maybe the gold's there, but who owns it? Has it been leased? Has it been swapped? Has the U.S. Treasury and the International Monetary Fund done gold swaps with U.S. gold, where they put it on the balance sheet of other countries in exchange for their currency on our balance sheet? And
that's what I was going to
So,
ask you, is because I know that there's been lots of legislation that's been introduced to this effect, and it hasn't really made any headway. So I like what you're saying about this newer bill and what it's adding to the idea of trying to find out who has ownership of said gold, in addition to the audit.
Yeah, and so it's an accounting and a review of any arrangements that have been made where U.S. gold has been placed at risk or encumbered or in other ways, threatened, or liabilities placed against it. So, and we know that kind of, or at least we have plenty of evidence that kind of activity has been occurring over the years. And I think the International Monetary Fund is actually very active in this area, and just as they are in other foreign exchange type transactions. And so, but nobody's ever looked at it, and it's certainly nobody external has looked at it, and it's never been disclosed. And so this bill, it's called the Gold Reserves Transparency Act, and that will be introduced probably sometime in March. And that's another bill that Congressman Mooney from West Virginia, a Republican, is leading on. So we're working on that as well. I mean, again, anything's going to be an uphill battle at the federal level, especially this. But the bill is now there. It's written. It's about to be introduced, and at a certain time, its time may come. We have found a lot. It is way easier to do public policy at the state level, and we've had several successful battles just in the last 3 or 4 years, both on the offense and defense. So, and especially at the state level, state legislatures are used to kind of just functioning, and not many people give them a hard time, and they don't hear from many constituents. So when they do, it gets their attention. And if your listeners can get engaged in some of these battles, and they get on our list, and we tell them, hey, contact your state legislature member about this right now, it actually makes quite an impact, because they don't have many bills.
Awesome. Well, Stephan, man, I know that we're kind of getting to that time where you needed to cut off. So, I appreciate your time. I do have links down below on my channel for a playlist of all the different interviews that we've done together with the collection of the trio here. So I encourage people to check those out. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to add before you do wrap up, Stephan? I appreciate being able to talk about the public policy stuff. It's part of who I am and part of who our company is. We believe this isn't about just selling gold and silver. It's about remonetizing gold and silver. It's about educating people about the importance of gold and silver. And frankly, I was in public policy for 15 years in Washington, D.C. or Northern Virginia before I launched my precious metals business, Money Metals Exchange. And so it's part of my DNA, I guess, to be involved in public policy. And so I found sort of the opportunity to pursue my passion as a business at the same time as have this opportunity to pursue policy. And I think
Nice.
You know, the lack of sound money is one of the greatest problems that we have. It is the lack of sound money and lack of gold and silver in the monetary system that has enabled this massive explosion in government and spending and power. And so it's very central to restoring liberty and restoring some sort of, you know, fiscal responsibility and rights and everything else. So it's exciting to be a part of that and to have that, you know, as part of my precious metals business, which it makes a lot of sense because our people on our list care about these issues and they're more willing to take action when we tell them about stuff. So I guess that'd be the main thing is people should go to moneymetals.com and get on our email list, and then they'll be more likely to be alerted to ways they can help.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate Stephan. Pimpy, you got any final thoughts before we kill the live stream? Or I shouldn't say.
No, just once again, I appreciate both you guys having me here. Stephan, thank you for coming aboard. Again, when it comes to any of these types of things, I agree with you that if you reach out to your representatives, that you most likely you'll get a response. So if that time comes and we need to do some reaching out besides your email, if you could just let us personally know, hey, focus in this area. This is the date it's coming out, and you know we'll do what we can to make sure that people who support this will reach out. We will for sure.
Yep. Great.
Awesome. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in. If you haven't smashed that like button, please smash that like button. Depending on where you're watching us at, make sure you subscribe to both of our channels, Rice TVX, Pimpy's Investment Chat, and Hidden Things in Front of Your Eyes. Again, if you are considering buying precious metals, looking to get some gold and silver, consider our friends at Money Metals Exchange. Use the promo code well, let me go ahead and start from the beginning. Go to moneymetals.com. Be a first-time buyer. You purchase $100 or more. Use the promo code RICE or the promo code PIMPY. You get a free ½ ounce of silver. It's a way to support our channel, and it goes to help an awesome business. We appreciate Money Metals. We appreciate Stephan for his time. We appreciate everybody for viewing. And as always, I encourage everyone to be the change by practicing change.